Hey guys, how's it going? So, I thought I would make an ML5 Headhunt RTA tier list right here because we're about to get the ML Headhunt starting after the patch, and I think a lot of people are really excited for it. We were expecting a new Moonlight Blessing, but they actually hit us with this, where you can choose basically almost any ML5. I believe the only ones that you're not allowed to choose is ML Landy, ML Choux, and Abyssal Euphane. I think every single other character can actually be chosen, so hopefully you already have those three or don't especially care about them. But this is kind of how I feel in the current meta about these characters, and I'll explain each tier, what they mean, and why I put the characters there. Let me also quickly say, Closer Charles is going to be getting Awakened Potential very soon. Also, we have a balance patch coming, so this is kind of my initial Headhunt tier list where I'd put everything. If some major changes come out, maybe I'll have to move some other characters, but I'll probably be making videos on any characters that are getting buffed or Awakened Potential Charles anyways, so that'll give you some idea about how good they are. So, let's first start in S rank. So, S tier, I would say these are characters that are useful for anyone in the game to have. They're incredibly powerful characters, but they also have a little bit of specialty in the case of someone like Zio. But let me just quickly go through this. So, Spectre Tenebria, one of the best DPS in the entire game. She's been good since the beginning of RTA all the way until now. Insane for standard play, aggro play, cleave, useful, basically everywhere. Even when she's not so good in certain metas, she always comes back and becomes insanely good in the next meta. One of the most powerful characters, but you also get her of a Moonlight Blessing, but for some reason you don't have her, maybe you picked the wrong character Moonlight Blessing or something like that, then she is always a solid choice. This is in no particular order, by the way, of where I have the characters other than the tier. Next, we have Briarwitch Asaria. You might be wondering, why the hell is Briarwitch Asaria here? Like, that's kind of weird. Briarwitch Asaria has quickly become one of the most staple picks in the entire game when you're playing aggressively. She is permabanned all the time. I believe in all Emperor plus RTA games, she has something like a 70% ban rate, which is absolutely insane. Or maybe that's Legend only, but she is one of the most banned characters in the game at high play. And that's because almost every character that counters Briarwitch Asaria is either pre-banned or has a bunch of characters that counter them. So if you pick a character that counters her, usually that character gets countered by something else. So essentially, she just strips all your buffs, gets you defense broken, and then you get instantly wiped in one attack. Insanely powerful. People who pick first turn openers, such as, let's say, Lua or ML Lilius, those types of characters are able to utilize her, and she just wipes your entire team. Conquer Lilius, a lot of us, including me, were thinking, okay, she's not doing so great. We got Summer Luluka and we got Moon Bunny. She's not that great anymore. Well, everybody is still picking them, and they're actually still performing pretty well. Some people actually have so much effectiveness that they just debuff your Summer Luluka anyways, because effect res is useless. So she's still doing really well, and some people just pre-ban Moon Bunny to ignore that. ML Queric. So ML Queric right now in the meta is not that amazing. He gets reset by a bunch of stuff. He's having a bit of a hard time. But he's also a character that always springs back. Anytime that he's ever had a hard time, he then in the next meta becomes god tier and is picked all the time again. It essentially just depends on what characters are popular and what the meta is. He is the best cleanser in the entire game, and he doesn't have to deal with F-res, which is really powerful. So I still would put him up here, even if at the moment he's not the best. Lastly, we have Zio. So Zio, right now in the meta, is doing very badly because it's a super slow, super tanky meta. And Zio is more for either cleave or aggro play. So right now he's not doing great, and he has not a super amazing win rate. But anytime it's not Giga Tank meta and pure RNG meta, which is the current one, he's actually insanely good. So I still think I would put him up there because he is a game-changing unit overall. Next, we have A tier. So these are characters that I think are just overall really strong, really good characters. I'm kind of looking at this current meta and also towards the future for all the characters. So some of them might not be as good in this moment, but just overall are really strong and have been performing well. We have Lionheart Surmia. She's amazing versus counters. She's not as good as people think, though, I think. A lot of people were thinking, why wouldn't she be an S rank? She's not actually that great against ML Landy, contrary to popular belief. Because the anti-crit really stops her from doing a lot of damage. A lot of people are just able to tank her out and then just kill her anyways. She can perform really well, but she also has a lot of problems at the same time. Even though she is so powerful, and she's so powerful versus counterattacks, I think she's still a great unit, but I wouldn't put her at the top. ML Ken, I never thought I would actually do this. ML Ken is now pretty amazing. I think he's in A tier overall because he's able to deal with ML Landy and he's able to deal with Yufine, and that's kind of already, you're a big deal if you can do that, since both those characters are spam picked by everybody. And he's also fun as hell, but he also requires really good gear. Same with Lionheart Surmia, but he's actually been performing surprisingly well. Last Rider Crow, one of the best tanks in the game. What can I say? It's him or Arrowell almost every single game if you're picking a tank. And he still does great. He's good at giving immunity to the team, which is very valuable, especially versus characters like a martial artist can too. He just does great. Everyone knows that. Remnant Violet, I was a little on the fence of where I wanted to put Remnant Violet. He's sort of like a B to A character. It kind of depends on how you play, and then there's also RNG. I'd maybe move him more towards B rank. But if you're playing more aggressively, and you get the first turn more often, then he's kind of more of an A rank, because he can even fight like ML Landy and ML Yufine, right? Because of the evasion. So like, he kind of gets extra value there, right? So I kind of feel like Remnant Violet is still a decent unit, but I think I'll move him to the back. This isn't in an order, but a lot of people look at it that way. Next we have Ambitious Tywin, awesome tank. Able to deal with a bunch of debuffs, able to fight against Knockwall. These are really big things in the current game. I think that Ambitious Tywin is actually one of the other big tanks, but you don't see him as often, but he's more of a strategic tank that's really strong. Balion, what can I say? Anti-Cleave, Anti-Spectre Tenebria, really good character. She has an insanely high win rate because people only pick her when she's actually really good, and most Spectre Tenebria spammers will pre-ban her, but she still has a lot of use in the game and is actually very powerful. She is such an insane passive. Strays and Leica, so I'm kind of moving these together for between A or B. Right now, as we speak in the current meta, they're both not that amazing. But they just were completely broken in the previous meta. So like, they're kind of insane sometimes when it's an aggressive meta, but when it's a slower meta, they're not that good. I think right now they're more of B tier units, but then sometimes they're kind of A tier units. It kind of depends on the meta, and it depends how your playstyle is. But they are really strong overall, which is why I have them over up here. And then when the meta gets aggressive again, I could see them moving back up to A all the time. Solitaria, she can completely solo games. She's kind of insane. Debuff galore, really powerful unit. Lone Crest and Bologna, one of the few characters that can actually fight against ML Landy. I think this character, when geared really well and when you're really tanky, is actually kind of overpowered. When you actually use her really well, she's insane, but she's so hard to gear and you have to be so bulky that a lot of people can't really do that. Next, B tier. These units are like pretty good, but they're not as good as a lot of the characters that people are picking right now. You'll occasionally see some of them, but they're not really the big priority picks that a lot of people are doing. Definitely more specific as well. Apocalypse Ravi, can't believe she's all the way down here. When's the last time you've seen this character? I never see her picked, and I would never want to pick her because every single player is spamming some combination of Adin, ML Landy. Somebody could just pick ML Choux and she's instantly useless. She's not good versus Spectre Tenebria. She's not good versus Arrowell. Essentially, she's not good against every popular unit in the meta right now. So, kind of hard to use this character, right? Pirate Captain Flan, she kind of rotated out of the meta a little bit, but she's still a solid debuffer that's able to pretty much ignore your F-res. She has so much effectiveness and lock you down. She's normally mostly a really late pick, though, but she's also not good versus ML Landy or Yufine, really, which are problems. Sagebones is on. Decent versus Cleaver aggro, though we don't see a lot of that right now, but he's always kind of a solid character just to have on your team for something like that. Designer Lilibet, she's not really that amazing right now either. Also versus aggro or cleave, but you don't see much of it. But she's just an alright aggressive cleanser that can sometimes fit in really well. Dark Corvus, the meta's super slow. He's able to deal with getting counterattacked a ton and then whipping it around and killing somebody, which is really strong. So I still think he has some really good usage when he's drafted well near the end of a draft. Desert Jewel Basar is a very specific technical character. Some people get more usage out of him than others. Essentially, you're either a DJ Basar player or you're not. And a lot of people who pick DJ Basar a lot have that kind of play style. Faithless Litica, you don't see too much of her. There's a lot of frustrating openers that kind of beat her, but she still can be a really useful character, but she's seen way less, especially because she's not especially good into some of these characters like ML Fiend, you getting half combat readiness, or even ML Landy. She has a lot of problems against them. Maid Chloe. So Maid Chloe is either a B tier unit or an S tier unit based on your playstyle. If you are a Maid Chloe F-res gamer, then she's S rank. She's God tier. If you're not, well, then you're probably not really using her. You kind of have to build your account in a specific way to be a Maid Chloe gamer, or play a certain playstyle, really bulky, F-res, lifesteal and everything, that kind of stuff, right? Chris Eidolon Charon. So this is a character that I don't see much of. I would kind of put him at B, where I think the meta's so slow, he has a lot of power, but at the same time, he could maybe move up depending on how the meta shifts. He's kind of a mystery, because a lot of people don't have good enough gear for him or don't play certain playstyles to use him, but if you can protect him well, he kind of solos an entire match. Although, I'm not so sure if he's that amazing at the moment versus ML Fiend and ML Landy, so that's why he's kind of C rank. These are characters I don't really recommend choosing. I would say they're better than the Na tier, because these are characters that theoretically could be used. You know, honestly, Talmon Luca might be one of my favorite characters, but she's kind of nah. I'm just gonna move right now. Requiem Rowana. This character was Giga OP like 3 months ago, and then everyone put immunity on all their characters, and now also MLU Fiend's out, so she just kind of took a giant dive. She can still be used, but it's way harder to utilize her now. Little Queen Charlotte has seen an uptick in usage because of MLU Fiend, and also just the fact that matches have slowed down, and it's not as hard Giga control meta. So there's a lot more Little Queen Charlotte running around. I would maybe move her up to B tier if she starts seeing more usage, but we'll have to see about that. Fallen Cecilia, she's picked from time to time for really tanky teams, especially when Arrowwell's taken off the board, but you don't see her a whole lot. Sylvan Sage Vivian, she's having a real hard time. I would almost move her down with how little she actually gets used and how bad she is kind of in the current meta. She's not having a great time, and AoE is not really useful in a full Elbrus counter meta. Operator Cigarette, very hard to use, especially since aggro is so weak right now. She can kill stuff, but like, there's better options to one-shot units at the moment. Spirit Eye Celine, she actually can deal with something like MLU Fiend, which I think has some usage. So I think I'll give her that, but overall, she's so weak against so many debuffs and characters like Karina and all these other things that she just has so many weaknesses. Death Dealer Ray, he's too, crazy enough, he's too honest of a character in the current meta. If you're trying to debuff stuff like ML Landy or Adin or all those things, like, he's not really good into those, and they're all over the place. Archdemon Shadow, you would think she fits right in, but a lot of the characters kind of beat her that are better at counterattacking constantly. So she kind of fell by the wayside, even though she has some potential to fight them. Most people are ready for debuffs. Commander Pavel can be used in Subcleave, but pretty unlikely. I will say a big note for Commander Pavel and Astromancer Elena is they're both pretty good in Guild War and Arena. I think that's where they actually get a lot more usage than in RTA. Although I would say Pavel is better than Elena if we're going for RTA. But they're kind of in the similar boat. I would say Elena is fairly useless in RTA most of the time. I just nudged her up a bit because she is actually nice in Guild War and Arena. Arbiter Vildred, theoretically he can still be used versus some aggro or clave, but like, I really don't think he has much use overall in the game. The Nat tier, these are characters that I think are kind of just useless in RTA. I think they're worthless in RTA. Honestly, I would not pick any of these for RTA. I would not pick them to use them. I would not pick them for fun most of the time either, because they're usually not even that fun to use. So that's kind of how I feel about those. But anyways, this is kind of how I feel about the current ML5s in the game. If you're doing a headhunt, keep in mind I tried to give a full explanation on essentially every character. Some of them might change based off of your playstyle for how much you value them, but I'm also trying to look kind of towards the future a little bit with some of them. Like, maybe they're not good this millisecond, but they could also be really good in the future as well. So I tried to add that in, because the meta shifts based off of plenty of different things. So even though we're in a really tank down slow meta, could change to more aggressive in the future, and who knows what's going to happen to Closer Charles. Guess I'll give a little bit of an update when his Awakened Potential comes out. I'll probably be trying it. So anyways, that's kind of my whole tier list for Headhunt and all my thoughts on all the characters, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a bunch for watching.